Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 8th. This is the reorganization meeting of the Hendrick Hudson School District Board of Education. In the district office is Greg Cavalieri, our videographer, as well as our board clerk, Carmen Koch, and our assistant superintendent for business, Enrique Catalan. The remaining board members and myself and our executive directors are remote. And because this is the reorg meeting and the board has some business to take care of at the onset, we will turn the meeting over to Carmen Koch, who is our board clerk, for some to start the meeting, as well as some oaths of office. So Carmen, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Hi, Carmen.
I would like to call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion to open the meeting?
Lori, so moved.
Second?
Corey, second.
Yeas?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I'd like to take a roll call for tonight for attendance. Carol Abraham?
Here.
Lisa Anderson?
Here.
Mary Pat Brugge?
Here.
Corey Notrica?
Here.
Bill Oricchio? Absent. Alexandra Philbin?
Here.
Lori Ryan?
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the reorganization agenda?
Lori, so moved.
A second?
Second, Lisa.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I would like to administer the oath of office to Superintendent Hochreiter.
Okay, I, Joseph Hochreiter, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of superintendent for the Hendrick Hudson Central School District according to the best of my ability, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
I'm going to read the oath of office for myself, Carmen Koch, District Clerk. I, Carmen Koch, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of District Clerk for the Hendrick Hudson School District according to the best of my ability, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. I would like to administer the oath of office to re-elected Board Trustee Corey Notrica.
I, Corey Notrica, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Trustee for the Hendrick Hudson Central School District according to the best of my ability, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Corey. I would like to administer the oath of office to newly elected Board Trustee Alexandra Philbin.
I, Alexandra Philbin, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Trustee for the Hendrick Hudson Central School District according to the best of my abilities, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Alexandra. The next order of business is the nomination of President and Vice President of the Board of Education for the 2020-2021 school year. May I have a nomination for President of the Board of Education?
Lori, I nominate Carol Abraham.
Are there any other nominations for Board President? Nominations are closed. Carol Abraham has been duly nominated to be President of Board of Education. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The next order of business is the nomination of Vice President of the Board of Education. May I have nominations for Vice President of the Board of Education?
This is Corey. I nominate Lisa Anderson.
Nominations
Did that
are...
come through?
Yes, I heard it, thank you. Nominations are closed. Lisa Anderson has been duly nominated to be Vice President of the Board of Education. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? At this time, I'd like to administer the oath of office to Carol Abraham as President of the Board of Education.
Okay, I, Carol Abraham, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board President for the Hendrick Hudson Central School District according to the best of my ability, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Carol. At this time, I would like to administer the oath of office to Lisa Anderson as Vice President of the Board of Education.
I, Lisa Anderson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Vice President for the Hendrick Hudson Central School District according to the best of my ability, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Lisa. It is my pleasure to turn this meeting over to Carol Abraham, President, Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. So, with the consent agenda for the reorganization meeting, there were a number of appointment approvals, including district clerk, purchasing agent, district treasurer, personnel attendance coordinator, student registration positions, district internal auditor, school district attorney, special counsel, bond counsel, title officer, internal claims auditor, and that's it. Okay. I did just want to make a note on item 5.3, which is the school board meetings, which states that our school board meetings start at 7 p.m. for the public portion and 6 for our executive session. This is different than our usual board scheduled meetings because of the COVID situation and the remote meetings. So that is subject to change in the future, just for the public to know that. All right. So I would like to get, hang on one sec, I gotta put my pages here. There's a lot of pages. Okay. There weren't any items removed from our reorganization consent agenda, so I would like to go into our regular meeting, and I would like to get a motion to approve our regular meeting agenda.
Lisa, so moved.
Can I get a second? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated, or does anybody have any items that they would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
Corey, so moved.
Lisa, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So there were a couple of items that were removed from the consent agenda, and those are our donations. We have 2 donations this evening. Our first donation is, let me see what we're going to pull up here. I guess we'll do Marcia Bailey's first. I don't think Greg's pulled anything up yet. I can see on the screen. Our first donation is $200 for the Marcia Bailey Scholarship Fund. The high school is the recipient of the following donation for specific graduation awards, and it's $200 from Robert and Margaret Gendrasit. Thank you very much for that generous donation. I'm sure it will be put to good use. Our second donation this evening is a donation for the Barbara Katzenstein Scholarship Fund. The Office of Special Education has received donations in the amount of $836 to be utilized to to pay for partial summer camp funding for students with significant handicapping conditions. Thank you again for that generous donation. Can I get a motion to approve those donations as stated?
Lori.
Can I get a second?
Corey, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay. Very good. So moving right along, we are up to our superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. A number of timely and important updates, and then I'll turn it over to our team for some program-specific updates. First is, over the last few weeks, Jim Mackin and I, high school principal, have been having conversations about the July 19th graduation celebration that was taking place at the Cortland train station. The MTA that runs the Cortland train station canceled our contract with them because of a number of events with regards to student celebrations and graduations in the immediate region, but also statewide. Without naming specific incidents, I'm sure many of you know that a district in our region was doing a drive-through graduation and things didn't turn out as planned, which led to a COVID outbreak in that community, as well as a parent organized event right here in our own community for a number of graduates that was not a district-sanctioned event, but still was certainly connected to the school district in a particular fashion. So long story short, MTA canceled their contract with us, and we're going to regroup. Mr. Mackin sent a letter to students and families today, basically saying we're going to hit pause on rescheduling because of these concerns. We're going to wait to see what phase 4 of reopening for schools look like. We're also going to wait till we receive more guidance from the health department as well as the governor in terms of restrictions or loosening restrictions. So this isn't a decision we made quickly. We wanted to study this. We had conversations with folks from the county health department. We spoke with folks from the town of Cortland. But MTA made their decision based on some very important data, and we understand that. So July 19th is on hold. We'll regroup as we receive more information from the county and from the state in terms of rescheduling that sort of event. Also, this is the time of year during the summer where we start looking at enrollment. Certainly, our situation right now is a little more unique, but we study elementary class size enrollment starting in the spring. We share that with the board and the community at school board meetings. And this is the time where we continue to monitor it with every child that enters the district and every child that moves. We have a couple hot spots. We have a number of class sections actually in all three elementary schools that are close to splitting, but it's important to recognize that those enrollments in those class sections have not met the criteria yet. Notwithstanding the situation we're in with what reentry looks like and with what schooling is going to look like in September. So to that end, we've implemented hiring freezes for instructional positions. We had a number of folks who have retired and resigned, and we're holding on refilling those positions until we know what September looks like. With that in mind, we received some news today. We heard from the governor today that he, as well as the state education department, not together because both entities had different groups studying reentry. So the governor had a task force as well as the state education department. We're expecting to hear some recommendations on reentry as early as next Monday. And the governor said that he will make a decision about reentry the first week of August. So we're not quite sure what that will look like yet. What we've been doing in our district is preparing for two scenarios. One is that we all come back to school like normal, and we know that's not going to happen, but we're preparing for it in terms of enrollment, in terms of class lists, in terms of scheduling students at the middle school and high school, and making sure we're ready to go as we always would at this time in July. The other side of the coin that we're planning for is we believe that digital and remote instruction is going to play some role in what school looks like in September, and Laura will talk a little bit about that shortly. What's left is everything in between, from a hybrid schedule to students rotating in and out. And the only guidance we have right now, and it's important that I underscore this, the only guidance we have is from the CDC and the Department of Health. And that guidance is very restrictive. It's restrictive for, I'm sure, very good reasons. That's out of my pay grade to make those decisions. But the current CDC guidelines right now for us calls for no more than 10 students on a bus at a time, would call for no more than anywhere between 8 and 12 students in a classroom at a time. Students would not be able to leave their classroom. Students would have to walk down the hallways one way, and a series of other, a document full of other guidance that they had put out quite some time ago. So this has become a big political football, as I'm sure many of you have heard or watched on the news, in terms of who's going to make the call to come back to school. But we really don't have any guidance. We have not been given any parameters to start planning. We haven't been given any hunch or idea or hint at what it will look like. So we're a little schizophrenic in how we're going about our day-to-day, but we do know that digital instruction is going to be a part of this. And we know that we're not going to have everyone back in school at the same time. Hopefully the Board of Regents at New York State will come up with some regulatory relief language in terms of in terms of class size, in terms of contact time, seat time, all of the nuances and all of the red tape that goes into running a school building and running a school district. The other issue is once we receive guidance on who can return to school, or I'm sorry, how many students can return to school, the major piece of guidance is which students can return to school, and are certain students given priority. For example, special education students who have an IEP that include not only academic support, but therapeutic support and OT, PT, and other related services, are students who struggled last spring given priority to return over students that perhaps didn't struggle last spring. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. And lastly, before I turn it over to our team, we're trying to move forward as a region as consistently as we can, because we share a lot of staff. And what I mean by that is many of our teachers and staff members are parents in other districts, and many of our parents work in other school districts. And if we don't have a consistent approach to what our scheduling looks like and what reentry looks like, a lot of people are going to be forced to make some really unpopular decisions. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but we are not there. And I know it's an anxious time for everyone. It's an anxious time for us. But hopefully those at the state level, including the governor, will have some feedback and input for us on Monday, and then we can begin planning. And with that, we'll go around the horn. I'll turn it over to Margaret.
Hey, before you move on, I think that Corey had a question, and it looks like Lori has a question as well. So Corey, why don't you go first, since you raised your hand first?
Yeah, so my question was, in the event we don't get the guidance, I mean, it seems like we're getting conflicting information, we're not sure what's going on. Does the district have a plan in place in the event we have either conflicting guidance or no guidance?
So Margaret and Lisa and Laura will talk about what they've been up to with their colleagues and with our staff to answer that exact question, but I'll let them get there, Corey.
Okay, great.
Lori, did you have a question?
Thank you.
Did Lori have a question?
No, I just more of an observation, because I watched today. I watched Vice President Pence, and I watched CDC and everything, and even CDC said they are guidelines. It's not law, it's not mandate. So, I mean, pretty much kind of like, what's that, the Pirates movie? They're just guidelines and whatever they call it. As long as why can't we pioneer and come up with our own? I mean, putting 10 children on a bus, especially what all the doctors and health specialists are saying about the risk to children, but I know there's adults in the building. Why can't we put a kid every other seat? Like, why aren't we coming up, or are we? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Those are guidelines. And we know at the high school level, it's impossible to keep the same group of kids in the classroom because they all take different courses, right? So if they are just guidelines, and CDC itself is saying they are just guidelines, are we coming up with just a plan to do our kind of own thing and make sure we're being safe and doing what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, that's going to be the conversation once we receive input from the state ed and the governor, because we need to know what those parameters are going to be in terms of seat time requirement. Is the state again going to waive the 180-day educational requirement? Are they going to alleviate the number of minutes and hours per week and per month that students receive live instruction? Is the state going to permit digital instruction, whether it's at home or even within a school building, to count towards seat time? Those are all the questions that superintendents have posed, and people like Laura, Margaret, and Lisa have proposed, and that's really what the state is hopefully going to synthesize for us on Monday. They went around the state and had 4 regional meetings at the end of June and basically said how to go and what help do you need. So we gave them a whole bunch of input, both digitally through these sort of meetings, but also in writing. And their goal was to synthesize it to see what the themes were, because our needs are not unique just to Hendrick Hudson. They're pretty general. They're pretty all encompassing. The issue is, are we going to be given regulatory relief and flexibility to implement any of those sort of situations? And lastly, I'll just say, and today was really the first time the CDC or any true political entity said that those are just guidelines. Okay, well, what liability do we as a district incur if we're not ignoring those guidelines, but if we're not also spending a whole lot of time to implement them? So it's all of everything, Lori. And
I know. I'm doing it in my district too. So
yeah.
But because they said it, like, and again, Plummer's going to come out and he's going to change his mind too. I just think we should just be set, so that we're not up in the air and we're ready to go. And my second thing is regarding our teacher situation with digital and all that kind of stuff. Can we just please make sure that we have stuff in writing, and if things change, etc., so we avoid what happened last time? Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, Margaret.
Except for maybe Alexandra. She will, though.
Hi, everybody. So this is always a busy time of year at district office. We're closing out a new year. We're getting ready for the year that's coming. For Lisa and I, we have grants that we are working on that need to get out the door. Laura and I are planning PD to help teachers with that digital learning piece under the assumption that some part of what we do next year will likely be remote. So I think the biggest thing for curriculum and instruction is the regional meetings that we've been going to, and we just did a huge one on Monday around scheduling options. We're trying hard to move as a region, and there's a lot of good reasons to do that, but we also answer to very different communities, and that may not be entirely possible from one district to the next. There's so many unknowns in this, and we all keep saying what you heard Joe say. We're waiting to see what the governor and the state ed department come out with and how strict those guidelines are going to be, what kind of flexibility do we have. And really the driver in the conversation is transportation. Until we know how many kids we can bring to school, we really have plans up in the air. So we had a planning day today where Lisa and Laura were kind enough to join me at my home, and we spent the day looking at different scenarios of what could possibly work. Again, it's a guessing game, and you can make 20 plans and still not be able to hit the bullseye once they come out with the guidelines for us. But, we're in the game. We're taking suggestions from other people. I thought our neighboring districts on Monday had some great ideas to share. It was a very productive meeting, and we'll continue to meet with one another. I don't think we've seen each other this much in all the years I've been part of the council.
but it's a good think tank. This is a smart group of people. We represent very different and diverse communities, so we're getting all sorts of perspectives on what's possible, what's not possible. And really, I do think, Lori, that once we have the guidance, it won't take that long for us to put something together that will respond to those guidelines that are created. It's not knowing that's driving everybody crazy. The teachers that I've been in contact with are flexible. They understand what's going on. They just want to know, just the way we do. So it's a waiting game until the other shoe drops, and then we'll respond to it. But again, it's closing this year and making sure everything was done appropriately, and then looking forward to whatever comes for next year, and then, putting in place supports for the teachers as we move forward. I mean, people did a really great job. I think they beat themselves up a lot in terms of what they thought they were doing, but they're asking for help to try and improve the digital work that they've done, and Laura and I are trying to respond to that. So lots of crazy stuff, but it's all the right stuff to be doing, and we'll just keep plugging along until we, hear from the big guy, and then we'll move from there.
What just happened?
I don't know.
I don't know what just happened to me.
Laura?
We can still hear you, Lori.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, Lori.
Okay, cool.
Laura, go ahead.
All right. So as Margaret said, on the instructional technology side, she and I are working together. We have a great team of teachers who have volunteered to work this summer and work on, planning and really trying, I think, again, I say it over and over again, but I think our teachers did a phenomenal job this past spring. But now everybody realizes that we need to kind of fine-tune a little bit more of the supports that we provide. So we're working on creating some more tutorials and resources for students, for families, some more guidelines for the overall school learning community. And as Margaret said, working with our neighboring districts, I repeat this often because we meet with them often, and it's nice to know that we're kind of in it together and we're all trying to plan together. So I think it's, we crowdsource good ideas. Just physically right now, obviously, the construction's happening in the buildings, and that we are reconfiguring where our server is at the high school, so that is a big job. So my technology team has been doing a great job. They're on the ground in the buildings every single day, and so working really well with Anthony Merlini and his team and the contractors. So that has been, just trying to make, work with everybody, just even as knowing when the server is going to be down or power is going to be down. So that's a big project that's been happening this summer. And again, I'm very grateful for the tech support that's on the ground every day. We are continuing. We found all of the Chromebooks and devices that were out. We put in our own self-quarantine in the building, so now we're ready to go actually open these Chromebooks up and get them prepped and ready to be either recycled or upcycled or reconfigured for staff. We are waiting for a variety of new Chromebooks to come in that we will have a Chromebook for every student starting in the fall that's a touchscreen, as well as for the staff and the teachers. So that's really important. I'm really, really grateful that we were able to get those. Inventory has been very competitive. So the fact that we're able to get the technology we need is really nice. With Infinite Campus, we already naturally were moving to some online forms, but it's also helping. So online registration, we're doing Backpack with Infinite Campus, which is going to open up the window for parents and students of what resources and tools that they can see and data that they can access. So we're just learning about it in the process in sense of configuring it and setting it up. We're even looking at Infinite Campus. One of the courses this week was, how to do some flexible scheduling with Infinite Campus if we're virtually learning. Also beginning a long-term project for our internal guides and internal policies as we're working to comply with the NIST cybersecurity framework, and that's part of EdLaw 2D Part 121. And in that process, also really trying to now, move forward quickly with vetting a lot of the software and websites that teachers use and students use to make sure they're compliant with Ed Law 2D. So we have tech coaches and all of the department leaders and grade level leaders now have access to a tool that we're using to help vet this. So we're slowly just plucking away vendor by vendor to get them to sign off on our agreements and make sure that they sign off on our contract and our parent bill of rights. And then on the human resources side, we had another retirement, as you can see from the agenda tonight. So congratulations to Mr. Small for his retirement. We are, again, more digital transitioning. So I have to say Fran Dodaro has been an amazing support in Frontline Central. She's been transitioning so many of our traditional paper forms to digital forms on Frontline Central. So it's something that we've been using a lot this summer. So Margaret's been using it a lot, as has Lisa, for just managing our staff and what they're doing, and whether it's curriculum work or, planning work. So having all this online has been very helpful. And then, as Joe said, really looking at staffing closely and trying to make sure that we meet the needs of our students and what they need, but also really making sure that we're being fiscally responsible to the school district.
Thank you, Laura. Lisa?
Well, we started summer school on, today's Wednesday, Monday, so summer school is in swing. It was a little turbulent at the beginning. I think it's probably 2 weeks before, because parents really wanted in-person, but a lot of our staff were not comfortable doing in-person, nor did we have the right PPE stuff that we needed right away. So we are working virtually, and for the first 3 days, I've heard nothing but positive, and I meet with everybody every Friday and every Thursday to just discuss what are the ins and the outs that we need to worry about and what are our hiccups right now. Again, I can't echo enough what Margaret and Laura said, is that we are working with P&W BOCES. We're meeting all the time. We're meeting with our own colleagues within the community. We actually set up meetings outside of P&W meetings just to make sure we're all sharing the same resources, we're all saying the same things to families, and really bouncing ideas off one another. One of the biggest things I've been working on is reentry with SEL. So I have a district team made of mental health team members, psychologists, social workers, and school counselors at each level. We've really spent a lot of time just before school ended, and since we've been out doing daily, weekly meetings and also doing plans. So we're now writing some action plans. If we do come back to school, if we don't come back to school, if we have a hybrid model, how do we support the students, the teachers, and the families within our school to really transition back? How do we build up the time of kids can be sustainable in the classrooms? How do we build up the staff's, take away the staff's worries? How do we use the same language if we have an anxious student? So we've really been doing a lot of that work. So we are I think we're on our second level of, we created an action plan and what our measurements will be, so that's where we are. We'll meet in a couple weeks to get our subcommittees back together. We continue, meeting special ed meetings as we need them. We are going to try some in-person testing, but we have to put some more protocols in place. So I'm working closely with Anthony because we do have some kids that need to be tested, and I don't want to wait till the fall with initials and or any students that might need something. If we don't open and they can't go back to school, how do we support them in their homes? So that's what I've been up to. Any questions?
Thank you. And Enrique is with us as he and his team are planning for reopening on the logistics end. He's also closing the books on last fiscal year, and our auditors are in town, and we're wrapping up the financials. So Enrique, if you want to provide an update.
Sure, thank you. I met with the rest of my team for the reentry plan, and we feel very confident that we'll be there. Transportation, we discussed all the issues, operations, food. So it's just for the governor to tell us exactly what he's planning to do, but we have several scenarios, and we'll be ready for any of those scenarios. So we've been working hard on that, and we're also preparing for the audit, and we just closed the book. So that's what we've been doing in my side of the world.
Very good. I also want to just remind parents, if they haven't done it yet, we put a survey up on our website yesterday and also on Facebook. It's open to parents, community members, and our staff. We're partnering with 12 other districts in our BOCES to try to get some feedback and see where some themes and trends are in terms of reentry planning and thinking. It's an interactive survey, so you can go through it and provide your input, but then you can provide input on other comments and other themes and threads that are within the survey. It's called Thought Exchange. So while folks may have logged in early to provide comment and input, you can do it all the way until the survey closes on Monday. And then our team, the 13 school districts, as well as the survey company will come together and put some analysis to that survey, and we'll provide that back, of course, to the board, but also the community, and that should help inform some of our thinking as well. And with that, Carol, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, before we move on, does anybody have any questions?
I do, of course.
Corey, go ahead.
So a couple of questions. So the first is, based on how things went since lockdown, what are some of the things that we learned from this lockdown process that we're going to be changing if everything stays the same going into September?
I think a lot of those changes are going to be based on some parent feedback that comes out of that survey.
Okay.
I also think that we're going to have an opportunity. We'll have certainly more time to prepare for that. Remember, the governor announced on, I think it was Monday, March 16th, that we were closed for 2 weeks, and we literally flipped the switch to online learning 2 days later. The issue was, for 3 consecutive 2-week periods, the governor said this is a 2-week window, 2-week window, 2-week window. It wasn't until May 1st did he say, okay, you're done for the rest of the year. So there certainly were some lessons learned. Laura's been working with her tech coaches and getting feedback from teachers in terms of their capacity, need for training, need for basically on-the-job training. That's what the tech coaches do. I know Margaret and her curriculum team, depending on what comes out of the governor's announcement, we're going to have to make some curriculum decisions, because there are a lot of things in our curriculum that we really enjoy and love teaching that aren't necessarily part of the standards or part of the assessments that the states have asked us. So there's going to be significant curriculum work that will need to take place to take some things off the plate, so we can open up teachers' schedule and availability to work more closely with kids digitally. We hope that we'll receive some guidance, and Lisa touched on it, that maybe certain kids or certain programs can come into school because they need the consistency, they need their services, they need their programs in the whole school setting. So I think there will be a whole series of changes if we go back in a similar situation to how we left. Those are just some. I don't know if Margaret, Lisa, or Laura want to weigh in, but those are certainly some very broad stroke themes that we discussed, even before we finished last year. And those are also themes, Corey, I just want to say that those are themes regionally too. Yeah. And we're really, really lucky to have some forward-thinking leaders in our BOCES, the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, that have brought all of us together in different groups, but also as entities to try to deal with some of these challenges regionally and not let 18 component school districts survive for themselves. So, my commentary, and I'll let the three ladies weigh in again, is going to be consistent, I think, throughout the region, and dare I even say the state. I mean, there are schools who were out for 12 weeks that never had a computer in front of a kid. They were doing packets on Mondays and Fridays. But I'll let Margaret, Laura, and Lisa give a little more specific.
I think a couple of things that I think were repeated threads, regardless of the grade level or the department. We learned that this environment is really challenging for kindergarten and first grade. And we need to think really hard about possibly prioritizing that age group, depending upon what the return guidelines are. We learned that some kids at the secondary level did really well in this environment. They were excited by the opportunity to self-pace or to get their work done and move on. They enjoyed the digital platforms. We learned, I think, across the board that it's not always beneficial to have your whole class in a Google Meet, that sometimes it makes more sense to meet with small groups for 20 minutes at a time and get through it that way. It's a better way to give feedback. I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder that might want to add to this, but I think all of the feedback that we were provided for, and I think especially where we saw threads of consistent language from teachers and, oh, by the way, from parents, from kids when it was available to us, definitely give us reason to rethink some of the things that we know we will have to do. I think teacher collaboration rose to a level I have never seen. They very quickly realized that the only way to tackle this was to work together to get it done. So grade level alike and course alike people sat down digitally and co-planned and co-taught if they needed to. So that was exciting. I think we also realized that even if we were to all come back, this is never going to go away. There's a place in our instructional program for this type of learning, and it behooves us to continue that practice and to continue to get both staff and teachers more and more comfortable with this type of an experience. And by the way, it's a great way to be college ready because a whole lot of colleges have moved in this direction if they weren't there before. So I don't know if Laura and Lisa want to jump in.
I think one of the things that I'll say that I have to go hand in hand with Margaret is we talk about the social emotional learning of our own kids. You know, we kept in contact. I think our school counselors and mental health team did an amazing job. But you think about all of our school avoidance students. They excelled in this. These students did so well. We didn't have to worry about them not coming to school. They were on the computer. They were doing their work. They were actually advanced in doing their work. It wasn't constantly pushing, and I've heard that from parents. So as we look at this and we say, okay, what are next steps if we do come back, if we don't come back? So, you know, I have to agree with Margaret is we have to look at this platform. Is school, traditional school, everything that every kid needs? Or is this online platform a very good way to bridge those kids that are so school avoidant and have so many mental health issues that they can't access what we can do at school, even with all the support we give them? And it's just an interesting concept to listen to the families that said, you know, my kid did really well this year. Or then you have the opposite, those kids that need the school. We all get that, but we have to look at the platform. And I think one of the things that we can also say about our students with disabilities is that this worked for some, but for a majority of them it doesn't. So we do have to prioritize. If we are able to bring small pockets back, we know that students with disabilities and our K-2 kids should be the first and foremost to come back. Because if you're building a house, you want your foundation really solid.
Yeah, and the concept that Margaret brought up too in just changing our concept of what school looks like. And, you know, we were already part of a pilot, OC21, with one of our teachers at the high school, Stephanie Geiger, doing blended learning with the platform Schoology. And we've been so I think one of the things that we've learned, and we had a lot of opportunity at the end of the year to really talk to a lot of teachers to say what worked, what didn't work, what, you know, if you had anything in the world, what would you need? It was interesting, and it very varies by grade level and content area. You know, like I was talking to high school science teachers who were just really frustrated that they couldn't do the kind of labs that they wanted to do, you know, and the modeling and, you know, trying to figure out how to model it for their kids, how to, you know, we talk about small group learning and collaborative learning spaces, and one of the conversation we had today when Margaret and Lisa and I were together was the concept of breakout rooms and how important that is virtually, because we also believe that, you know, in person. So I'm really keeping an eye right now on what Google's doing. So Google Meet potentially, maybe we think, is moving to a very Zoom-like platform where they will have similar features like, for example, a breakout room. They may start charging for that, so it's something I have to think about. What that cost would look like? Do we go to Google Enterprise for education, which some districts have done? So Schoology is also another platform that a lot of districts have used. I have a call actually set up tomorrow with the high school administration, all the department leaders, and Margaret will be joining me as well, where Randy Hall from the Lyric at Southern BOCES is going to walk us through Schoology so we can see, is this something that would benefit maybe just our high school students and teachers this coming school year? Trying to look, again, constantly weighing out the costs of what it would be to have a Google, pay for Zoom, pay for Schoology, trying to, figure all that out. And, even Project Lead the Way, for example, that was, something we're very proud of, and we're a very successful school in that, and trying to make sure that we have the right equipment for Project Lead the Way to still be successful. Some teachers might, with the construction that's happening right now, we have 2 computer labs that are being taken down, and we have older desktop computers. We may be lending those out to teachers, some specific teachers, so that they can have a hard drive where they need to locally store some things so they can run some of the programs that they need to run just for modeling purposes for their learning. And then I think also just managing the schedule. What does that look like? So kids are not competing with, teachers aren't competing with each other for time in front of kids, that we're also aware of how much time kids are in front of screens, create authentic learning opportunities, but create an equitable balance across all classes. So it's why it's really important that we rely on the teachers. We always say this when we talk to them, that the department leaders and the grade level leaders, they're the ones who are on the ground doing this every day. So the fact that they can represent their grades or their departments and then give us feedback, and we kind of work back and forth together, and that's really what's happening right now, is trying to talk. Margaret, I know, has been collecting idea after idea for the past, I think, 2 months from principals and all of the stakeholders in the building, so that we have lots of options ready to go based on what we're allowed to do or not do. But we also don't know all the answers yet. So there's still a lot of, I think, anxiety over that, because we would love to put a plan in place right now and say it's going to be perfect. But we know that there's going to be a lot of unreliability, so we're just trying to make sure we have as many bases covered as possible. And I think in the next few weeks, hopefully, we'll get a little closer to that.
Great. Because I think one of the things we talked about was the concern about, and you've addressed it, that some kids are getting the attention they need and some kids are not. Some kids have too much of a workload. Some kids don't have enough. And there's the social aspect of it, where there are a lot of kids that are struggling because they really is socially, this is really impacting them. So, coming up with creative ways to address those, because in the event we don't get the guidance that we need, or things are status quo, we just have to, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, and a lot of, it's interesting. Margaret and I kind of balance each other out, because I really provide a lot of the tools, but you can have a hammer and not know what to do with it. So, then you have to think about the pedagogy that goes with it. And it's interesting, we talk to teachers, they were not trained to teach this way. When they went to school and became certified in education and did their student teaching and all of their practice, this is completely foreign ground for them. I mean, there's a lot of concepts they can use, but so it's a lot of support for them to feel confident in trying new things and taking on the challenge, and really rethinking what teaching and learning looks like in this unknown world right now.
And I just want to weigh in and say that and I understand it's guidance. It's not, guidance or recommendations from the CDC, and not set in stone. But just suspend that position for a minute. Our profession would go back 40 years or 60 years in terms of pedagogical practice and improvement if we had 8 to 12 kids sitting in a classroom 6 feet apart, all facing forward with the teacher in front of the desk, teaching at kids. everything we know about collaboration, working in groups, centers, kids working independently, everything that research tells us about how kids learn best is out the window because we have to socially distance in the classroom. And that our district education as a profession has made such a profound investment in trying to change our thinking around planning and delivering instruction differently based on how kids' brains are wired today. I'm afraid it will be a huge step back, and that's my comment to bring that full circle to say a level of technology and a level of some sort of digital learning is going to have to be a piece of this puzzle moving forward. And Margaret, go ahead. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say one last thing in closing. I hope, Corey, that not unlike other professions, from adversity comes great opportunity, and we have learned some very powerful lessons in this little science fiction experiment. I don't know that the timing is right for us to dive into that and kind of blow up our thinking, but I don't want us to let go of the pieces that we're observing and we're saying, we realize that one size doesn't fit all, and, the kid who thrives, how do we put them back in a classroom? Is there something else we could do differently? And I'm not saying that, this is what it's going to look like, but I think it's okay to dream when you see some evidence in front of you that could change your thinking about the way we've always done things. And I hope that, again, I'm not saying that in September we're going to make everybody crazy, but I hope that we find a time and a place to have that conversation with each other, because it would be criminal to take what we're seeing and just say, okay, we're all back in school, let's just go back to the way we were, and not take advantage of what we're observing.
Right. Well, I think the biggest fundamental issue is that the workforce is changing now. Yes. Fundamentally, right? The way people work now, real estate for businesses is going to change.
Where
people work from is going to, how people work is going to change. It has changed. It's not going back to the way it was. We have to prepare kids and our teachers to work in this new environment, which is already on us, and it's been forced upon us. So as much as, as you said, as people might want to hold on to the way we were doing things, I don't think that's fair to the students or to our teachers anymore. I think we have to move to another level, and those teachers that might have struggled with technology have to learn to use it now. I mean, they have to be good at it to be effective teachers.
Yeah.
So I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we get our teachers up to speed in understanding how the workforce is changing and changing how we teach our children based on that.
Right.
One thing that you have to remember, though, is that you're not going to leave a 6-year-old home when parents are. So it might have worked. I had 4 kids who this worked beautifully for, but they're older kids and they're allowed to stay home. I mean, I could say, A, B, C, and D did fabulous. They were doing their homework. They were around every Zoom meeting. It worked out so much better for them. But we have to also be cognizant that people are going to go back to work, and that let's say a 3rd grader was doing great or something, but we also have to recognize that parents aren't home. So even though a child might have done so much better like that, and believe me, I've seen it, we have to be careful. Oh, like Jamie's going to stay home because he did so much better, but a lot of stuff has to get worked out on that end. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, those are the decisions, Lori, that the state education department needs to make. I mean, right now, a student can stay home and be homeschooled, and Lisa coordinates our homeschool program.
Oh, I understand that, but what if the 2 parents have to go to work?
Oh, yeah. No, look, I think what we're going to hear from the state ed department and certainly the governor is schools are going to end up providing childcare and wraparound services that typically we haven't, so parents can go back to work and have a paycheck and all of those things. I think a number of matters with regards to our profession and the spokes that come out of the hub are going to be profoundly different. And one last comment I'll make, Corey, that ties into what you said. A number of years ago, we basically created an expectation that all of our new teachers, and especially those who are with us for 3 or 4 years to achieve tenure, had to go through the rigorous training program through instructional technology with Google Classroom. And I know Laura and Margaret Lisa has led that, but Laura has trained the trainers and has met with those teachers. So that's part of our onboarding experience as well. So it's not just, do you call mom and do you put on a good lesson when we observe you? It's, are you committed to learning technology and the applications and having the skills and then demonstrating it in front of kids?
Thank you. That was a really excellent update and really important conversation. Does anybody else have any questions or comments before we move along? All right. Our next section is committee reports. I don't believe we have had any committees in the past, was it a week since we met? 2 weeks? I forget. 2 weeks since we met. We have no presentations or discussions tonight either. I think this was an excellent presentation and discussion myself, although we didn't have visuals for our slide presentation. But sometimes these kind of spontaneous conversations are the most valuable, so that was excellent. Do we have any audience comments tonight?
We do not. We did not receive any emails. Nope.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to board comments and new business. Anybody have anything else that they want to bring up tonight before we move to our executive session? All right, so that ends the public portion of our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Can I get a motion to close the public session so that we can move into our executive session, please?
Lori, so moved. Oh, sorry.
Can I get a second?
This is Corey. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.